Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Bar Down Podcast. I am your host, Vex. I'm joined here by Marvel Man. And, Marvel, what a World Championship playoffs we had. RBT Bango, RCB Tango, how are you doing tonight, my dude? We are doing terrific. So excited for you to join us here tonight. But Marvel Man, overall general thoughts, what did you think about the playoff bracket on Sunday for RLCS Worlds?
I think that had to be the best Rocket League that we have seen almost the whole entire bracket, hands down. I was on the edge of my seat on almost most of those games. I'm pretty sure the first rounds, almost all of them went to a Game 7, if not to a Game 6. So it was constant gameplay, tons of fun. The championship, little underwhelming. It was kind of like a clear winner when you saw it, but overall, still really great bracket in the end there. I enjoyed every minute of it, and I'm excited to see how these teams move on from this.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a thrilling day of Rocket League, and I was glued. I'm not ashamed to say I watched 10 hours of Rocket League on Sunday. I literally sat, whether it was on my couch, in my bed, in this chair here, watching Rocket League for 10 hours. It was thrilling. It was truly the best tournament of the year. Psyonix, the entire staff, round of applause to them. Terrific job. So well done. The format was incredible. And that's another topic that we're going to talk about in the future weeks here as we fill the space between the conclusion of the World Championships and the start of RLCS 22-23. We're going to have a show kind of focused around the splits and the format within the splits and talking about, kind of what formats you want to see. But before we do that, we got to break down the action from today, talking about the playoff bracket that happened today. Our first matchup was between Version 1 and FaZe Clan. FaZe Clan coming out in a thrilling Game 7. FaZe Clan 4-3ing Version 1. Marvel Man, what were your thoughts on this one?
We were hesitant to pick FaZe Clan on this one, and I'm pretty sure we chose Version 1 in our predictions, or maybe I think it was a disputing one. Regardless, we were a little hesitant on FaZe Clan. We thought that FaZe Clan was maybe just lucky against Team Falcons. Could they repeat the dominant offense that they had and the just protective defense that they were holding up against the Falcons? And they did exactly that. They went in and they beat Version 1 in a Game 7, so let's not exclude how well Version 1 played. And Falcons FaZe, they really went in there and they gave it their all. Sad for Version 1 though, because they really did play hard, went to a Game 7, forced FaZe to really have to get on their heels and make a play, but overall just a really great game.
Yeah, it was an absolutely insane series. It looked like early on, especially, that FaZe was going to kind of run away with it a little bit as you see the highlights here. 4-1ing the opening series, but Beast Mode really Sunday was continuing his trend from Saturday, just being absolutely cracked at the game. Beast Mode, a younger prospect that V1 picked up, blossoming in front of our eyes. Next year V1, as long as this roster does not change, this is going to be a problem for teams. This V1 roster, it truly gave everyone all they could handle, and that was no exception with FaZe. FaZe, we were high on them coming in. We predicted that they were going to actually take the series 4-2. So, full credit to V1, just giving FaZe absolutely everything they could handle. The high-power offense of FaZe, though, in the end was just too much for Version 1 to handle. And, man, that was only our first match of the day. Just in a crazy series of events. And then we go to a slightly less crazy series. Not sure if that's offensive, but man, NRG, they didn't bring it. They did not bring it. They dropped their series to G2 Esports 4-1. For moments, it looked like NRG was trending in the right direction throughout this tournament. It looked like they were the energy of old from RLCS X. They looked like they were starting to figure things out. And then against G2, things just kind of fell apart. But I'm interested to hear what your thoughts were, Marvel.
Yeah, I would almost say that, it's not against them that things fell apart. They are working on establishing their team again. They're definitely trying to build something back up that has fallen down. So I don't blame NRG for losing this match. G2 is a great competitor. They're a solid team. And honestly, G2 was something to be worried about. And G2 showed up and they really got things done. NRG played to, I think, the best of their ability that day. But G2 was just too much for them to handle. They had the mechanics, they had the aggression. G2 was just on top of them the whole entire time. But well played by both teams. I think they both, fought till the end. So yeah, good job.
Yeah, and NRG probably one of the teams that we're going to talk about during this off-season portion during Roster Mania, talking about, is it time to make a change? But initial thoughts now. Marvel Man, if you're NRG, do you make a change with your roster? Squishy, of course, being the person that was looked at, throughout their struggles early on in this relationship when they signed Squishy in the first place to replace Fireburner, was looked at kind of the weak link. And it seemed recently, especially on Sunday, he was one of the bright spots on the roster. And you're not going to get rid of Justin. I'm not sure how much money another org would have to pay you to trade Justin to them, but so, I mean, that leaves the lone man out, Garrett G, which I could see it happening, because Garrett G, not a strong split at all, an older competitor, maybe doesn't have that passion to grind, put in those 7-8 hours a day of training. Is it time for Garrett to move on, or is it time for any of the members of NRG to move on, NRG to make a roster change?
That's definitely something to look at. There's a lot of teams that are trying to change things up right now, which you mentioned we'll talk about in a little bit. So I definitely don't think that's off the table. That's definitely an option for NRG. But like you said, is it really a smart idea when, they're not really playing bad and it's really just the type of people that they are, going on in their life and stuff like that. So my opinion would be no. You're trying to build something, like I mentioned before. You're trying to get yourself out of this hole. And while one way might be, yes, let's get a roster change. Let's, get some new people, some fresh blood in here, and let's change how things are going. Or do we work on what's going wrong and try to get better? I think both are definitely some solid solutions to the problem. But personally, I think, if they really work on what is going on within the team and try to focus on that, because they already have the team chemistry because they've been together for so long. So I believe that there might be an opportunity to get better as a team, but I'm definitely not going to exclude the idea of just getting new people in there. There's always new mechanics coming out every single day. People are always thinking of something new. So maybe that's just what NRG needs. Maybe they just need some new blood in there. Maybe they just need something to spice it up and keep them on their toes. But for right now, I think that they'll get it under control. They'll figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Tango put it in chat too. The connection between the NRG boys is something to definitely be commended and observed, and it's tough to take that leap of faith and make a roster change. And that this will be something that is definitely discussed throughout the offseason, not by just us, but over on the Reddits, the Twitters, everywhere. This will be going viral because NRG, being one of the most popular teams, not having the success, there's always going to be a call for a head. And maybe it's even a coaching change. Sizz being the coach behind the bench, is he the right person there to be with NRG? So a lot of questions going to be asked, and I'm excited to talk about more of it as we go through Roster Mania this summer. But moving on to a team that did make a roster change during the split, and that is Team BDS, who K-Corp gave them all they could handle, going 7 games. BDS 4-3ing K-Corp to win their quarterfinal matchup. Marman, what were your thoughts on this one?
It was tough. K-Corp was always a personal favorite, and I think even when we were talking about predictions, I was really rooting for K-Corp. I was really hoping that they could pull something out and that they could maybe dominate the bracket here, show the world something that they've never seen before. Sadly, that was not the case, and BDS did end up taking them, but not without a fight. K-Corp definitely gave them something to remember. And so I'm excited to see what K-Corp does in the future. But talking about the game, BDS played hard. They played well. They were almost on top of them the whole time. I felt like when I was watching it, K Corp was just playing a little slow, a little reactive, rather than being, motivated to get that goal. They were more on the defensive of let's try to stay alive. And so I think that's where K Corp kind of fell behind. And I think personally that is where BDS was able to get the advantage over K Corp. So yeah.
Yeah, BDS. I'm honestly surprised K Corp gave him as much fight as they did. We predicted BDS 4-2ing, winning the game in 6. K Corp pushed him 7 and really pushed him to the brink in that 7th game. It looked for times that like K Corp might make the upset. And all tournament long, even in the wild card, we were high on K Corp, predicting them every single night following competition, saying, this team looks legit. They were hot coming in. We predicted that. They look good. They're young. And I mean, talking about Itachi, a player banned from competing at 13. Here he is, top 8 at Worlds. Astral, top 3 performance at Worlds. This squad is loaded, and they're young, and they're hungry. So that's something to be afraid of on another level. For some of these older teams, you hear about the Super Bowl hangover in the NFL. Once these guys win a world championship, it's so hard to keep grinding and go back to try to win 2, try to win a 3rd, try to win a 4th. And so, especially with the esport growing as much as it is, you're getting more talent in here too. So that's going to make it even harder for those names to repeat and come back, because the depth this year is something that we have never seen before in any year of Rocket League, and especially now in this year-long format. Prime example, NRG, you have a team that's on top of the world, undisputed number 1 NA, and by the time they got to the World Championships at the end of the year, they had kind of plateaued already and they were on their way down. It's so hard to make it back, and with this K-Corp squad, you can't help but think they're going to buck that trend, because they are young, they are hungry, and man, they gave BDS, now the current reigning world champion, spoiler, all they could handle. And that could have just as easily been K-Corp winning the world championship this year. So I'm super excited to see their future, and BDS we're going to talk about again in a little bit here. But take a deep breath, because the next series was Moist taking on Furia. And we're going to talk about this in a little bit. But Furia defeats Moist 4-3 in Game 7. We're going to talk about it in a little bit. But your initial reaction, Marvel Man.
I couldn't breathe, dude. Like, I was literally underwater that whole match. I felt like every time I turned around, somebody else was taking the lead. And I honestly, the whole entire game, and I mean this 100%, I did not know who was going to win. Every 2 seconds, it was something else. And I'm going to leave it at that, so then we can talk about it later.
Yeah, just a shocking series. Furia playing out of their minds. Moist maybe having a down day. I've seen it discussed that Moist wasn't playing peak, and I think there's definitely some merit to that. Definitely some mistakes that typically did not happen with that Moist roster. But it's kind of the curse almost, because if you look at last year with RLCSX, BDS was the Moist. They were the undisputed number 1 European team. And then when the chips were on the table, RLCSX championships for the EU region, they choked. They couldn't win the big one when it mattered the most. And at the end of the day, your season then is remembered as a failure, kind of. You had a great season, a very successful season, but you drop that one major Big 1 tournament, and it was definitely a dirty stain on their mark of it otherwise spotless and great season as one of the greatest teams, honestly, of all time last year. And Moist, very similar situation this year, really heating up around the time of Winter Regionals. Winter Major, of course, coming in second after going on the lower bracket run, losing to G2 in a bracket reset. Spring Regional, going on the lower bracket run, winning the bracket reset against Team Falcons, who were absolutely in peak form at the time. And now here at the World Championships, they were a team to be feared, the undisputed favorite in many people's books, just unable to close it out when it matters most. Maybe the nerves got to them. Everyone always said Moist has the ice. Game 7, they're going to win it every time. This time, they did not. And again, we're going to touch on the series in just a little bit, so I don't want to go too in-depth, but definitely a tough break for Moist coming off the end of the season. Having a great season, just could not get it done when it mattered most. But that then leads us to our semifinal matchups, which for the lower side of the semifinals ended up being G2 4-2ing FaZe Clan. Marvel Man, what was your thoughts with that one?
It was interesting. You know, the Team G2 is something to just be feared, and they really went in there and showed FaZe Clan why they need to be feared. And I feel like FaZe Clan is one of those teams to where you just don't know where they're gonna go. They're just kind of, you know, on, and then sometimes they're just kind of off. And I think they gave it their all against version 1, and then they were burnt out when they reached G2. And you could see it, and G2 could see it, and they took it to heart. They went all the way with it. And you know, I felt like G2 was just a little bit on top of FaZe Clan the whole time. And you know, I think if FaZe Clan was to play as good as they did against the Falcons, or even possibly against version 1, I think they could have gave G2 a little bit more competition. But I think just based on the fact that FaZe Clan didn't have that same fire in them is what gave them the loss. And also G2 is just more of a dominant team, and FaZe Clan is more of a ones-based team, and so I think that's kind of what gave FaZe Clan the disadvantage as well, and what made G2 look so aggressive on them.
Yeah, FaZe Clan, definitely full respect to them, gave G2 everything that they could handle, and FaZe Clan, a team that, same thing that we were talking about, some of these other teams, especially K-Corp, peaking at the right time. You know, FaZe having a rough go of it all year, and then here we are at the World Championships. They looked incredible. Looked the best they have all year. Their defense, which was something that was largely criticized of them the entire season, peaked. Absolutely playing the best defense I've ever seen any of the 3 members of FaZe play. And as a team, their cohesion and team plays, again, the best we've seen all year. But in the end, it just was not enough to get through G2. And we're going to talk about this in a minute too, but the addition of Atomic to G2 would just prove to be too much for the boys of FaZe to get through. You know, AJ, First Killer, top tier players. You want to talk about potential roster changes. Maybe they drop Sipical and they try to bring in someone. I'm not sure who you want to try to bring in. You know, I'm just going to throw it out there. Maybe you bring in Reddles.
I like it.
But we'll talk about that again in a little bit here, as there has been some major breaking news today in the Rocket League world. But that's another potential roster that we can talk a lot more about over Roster Mania, over this break between the end of the World Championships and the start of RLCS 22-23. But getting back to the series, well played to both teams. A thrilling series. Another series that was just absolutely insane to watch. Clips galore. Star-studded goals galore. But in the end, it was G2 taking the series 4-2 over FaZe Clan. And again, G2 just proving to be too much. Then on the upper side of the semifinals, we had Team BDS taking on Furia. And the people's champion, really NA, kind of adopted Furia. And really wanted Furia to make this miracle run, be the first team not from North America or Europe to win a RLCS World Championship. Could they do it? No, they could not. BDS took care of them 4-2 in a really heartbreaking fashion too, I might add you, as we go ahead and look at some of these highlights over here. Furia was up 2-0 in the series. They fell behind 2-0 in game 1. I think it was even 3-0 at one point. But then Furia makes the comeback. They make the comeback, they tie it up, they win it in overtime. They take that momentum on over to game number 2, winning game number 2. They're up 2-0 on Team BDS. It's looking like it's going to be crazy. And then BDS remembered their BDS, and they downloaded the Furia game plan and shut them down the rest of the tournament, the rest of the match. And BDS again taking it 4-2. Marvel Man, what were your thoughts on this one?
Like you were mentioning before, they took it in game 2, and I honestly thought, as well as many others, that Furia was about to just sweep the nation on this bracket. I thought Furia, after just a killer game against Moist, were looking strong as ever, never seen before, fresh out of the pocket, ready to play. And so when they came around game 2 and they were just winning, I was quite shocked. I was not expecting that, but like you said, BDS really realized that they're BDS, and they shut that down real quick. And talking about teams that maybe have just burnt out, I think Furia may have just kind of shut down almost. I think once they realized that BDS is actually fighting back, they kind of lost it, and they didn't know what more to do. They tried changing up some things, you could kind of tell, and I don't think it was able to hold up against BDS. BDS just being a strong team overall. And while Furia played an amazing game, BDS just played it better. So,
yeah, absolutely. Again, a thrilling series. It truly came down to the line. It was back and forth the entire time. Just a insane series. And as we said, in the end, it came down to BDS just seemingly downloading the boys on Furia. It was this moment, really, when we realized, yeah, this might be a rough go for everybody else in the tournament, because BDS remembered who they were. It was just, man, as someone who rooted for BDS all throughout RLCSX, because the idea of these super teams is kind of fun. My goodness, just insane, because the super team rarely works too in pro sports. But we're gonna talk about it. No need to spoil it, because we're there. G2 versus BDS in the finals. The super teams kind of colliding here. Both teams making a change at the mid-season mark. In the end, who would it be to come out on top? And in the end, it was BDS 4-1ing G2. Looked like they didn't even belong on the same level. Straight up making G2 look like they were bronzes out there. It just wasn't even competitive for any portion of it. But Marvin, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I was a little underwhelmed going up into that finale. I was like, BDS, G2, like, let's do it. Like, I thought this was going to be the best match of the day. And it wasn't, sadly. But, I think, if I remember correctly, G2 definitely had, a hold on BDS. If I was looking at it, it had BDS winning 2 games, and I had G2 winning 2 games. So I was like, oh man, like, they're doing good. And I just saw BDS like whooping them earlier, so I was like, oh, BDS got this. And then G2 started coming back, and I was like, well, hey now, like, that's kind of crazy. And yeah, no, I thought it was a little, it was getting pretty good, and then they just kind of took away with it when BDS. And I apologize, I said that it was 2-2. It's actually the series at 4-1, so they actually was a 1-1 game.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I saw that, and I was like, oh, G2, they're definitely they're catching up here, but that was not the case. BDS had them all the whole time, and like you said, they looked like they didn't really belong on the same field together. BDS was just kind of more dominant, and G2 was just kind of spectating, and it was kind of shocking to see that, how did these two teams make it to the finale? BDS, deserving, and G2 definitely deserving to be there, but, it just didn't seem like them two matched up very well. And maybe it was just the draw of the hand, but it was very interesting to watch.
Yeah. I remember I was texting you during the finals, and I think it was after game 2. I said, man, G2's just getting demolished out here. It like, even when G2 had the game tied, even when they were winning, even when they won the one game that they won, it never looked close. It looked like BDS was truly just built different. The addition of Seiko, so criticized during the midseason mark, because BDS, again, RLCS X, one of the greatest teams ever assembled, really. Just an incredible performance, making all of Europe look like a minor region because of how much they would win every single event and how they made it look easy. And then, out of nowhere, you're going to drop one of the guys off that roster. It was shocking. I remember when I heard the news from Shift, I was stunned. And then they bring in none other than Seiko, who is one of the best players in the world. And it's like, okay, the rich get richer. And it leads us into our topic here. Is this BDS making a mid-season change, building a super team, the way of the future? Because also, if you look at G2, the other finals team, they did the same thing, dropping Drees and picking up Atomic. So, is this kind of the way of the future?
I don't. I think this also goes back to what we were talking about with NRG. You know, they could maybe make a roster change in the future, and it could be a way to go. Like I said earlier, you know, always getting somebody fresh in there, somebody new, is really something exciting to see. And I think not only because the experienced players are getting a new idea into the game, getting some fresh eyes, but also it kind of gives the newer person being brought into the team just a overall motivation, because they're there with a new team. You know, they have a new they have a new support system, and so whenever they get to these games, it's a little bit more thrilling for them, and a little bit more thrilling for their older players, because, you know, now they're vibing with somebody else. So I definitely think that, you know, that is definitely a step to building a super team. I definitely think that when you're trying to climb the ranks and trying to be the best team out there, getting some newer players, getting some fresh eyes is definitely a way to enhance your team.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're actually going to talk about it in a little bit here with Roster Mania. But the idea of the super team, I think, is something that's not going to go away. And I failed to mention it, but even NRG you could look at kind of doing very similar thing, getting rid of Fireburner and picking up Squishy to pair alongside Justin and Garrett G, who are two, you know, Justin, a blossoming great, a young mechanical phenom, much how we look at Daniel nowadays. And Garrett G, one of the old guards, one of the top competitors, attending every single LAN until the spring major. You know, just a top tier competitor in his own right. You're bringing in a veteran like Squishy, who's a pro's pro. You know, you're building another super team, and they dominated NA for a year and 3/4. So, I mean, the idea of super teams I don't think is going to go away, and I think it's something that's definitely going to be sticking with us, and especially kind of guiding some of these roster mania changes that we're going to be talking about in just a minute here. But moving off of that, we talked a little bit about this Moist Furia series, and we got to talk about it. All right, we got to talk about it.
So good.
was this Moist vs Furia series the greatest series ever?
Ever is a strong term. I'm not sure about ever, but it's definitely top 3. It was up there. You know, going into the match, you know, Moist is a solid team. They talk about it. They're confident, a little bit cocky. They are just out there, and they know it. Mechanical gods. They trust each other. They're consistent. They're aggressive, and they're smooth. They do everything just so cleanly. It's almost like watching a tutorial how smooth they are. And so, you know, to see Furia go up against them and constantly have them on their heels was a sight to see. And I think the same vibe that you got with Falcons Falcons versus FaZe kind of followed over into Moist versus Furia. It seemed that Furia was they were all over them, and they almost were playing to the 50 every time. And they just had some incredible defense. And I think there was one point, Moist, the series was 4-2. So yeah, it must have been game 3 or game 2. They went to overtime. Furia and Moist went into, like, I think it was like a 6-minute, 7-minute overtime. It was long, and Furia made one little mistake and they did a double commit, and it costed Moist to get the goal. And so from there, it was like, oh no, like Moist has got it. It's 2-0 in the series, and Furia is just they're not looking good. And then somewhere along the line between game 2 and game 3, Furia turned up the juice. They said enough is enough. We're not going home. And they absolutely just dominated Moist. They stopped them on everything. No more double commits. No more mistakes. Nothing but pure confidence, aggression. And every time Moist scored, Furia answered right back. They did not let them get anything over them. And I believe, and I could kind of see it, Furia's game style seemed to be, let's score because we know we can hold them. So they were trying to score, get a decent lead, and then just hold them there because they were stopping them on everything. And I believe it got around to about game 6, and Furia had Moist. I think the score at the end was like 7-1. I think they Braziled them. And at that point, you're looking at the screen like, is this even real? Like, is this what's happening to Moist? And all the people on Moist, red face, gripping the controllers, they're pissed. They are mad. And so, they went to game 7, and I'll let you talk about game 7 because I'm sure you probably have some clips maybe that you would want to share. But it was such a great match. I definitely think top 3, and it's going into history books for sure.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I'm being prisoner of the moment here. I think it was the greatest series ever, Marvel. I do. I think it was the best to ever happen. Right? Just the stakes of it. Everyone's saying Moist. They're the favorites. They're gonna win the whole tournament. Like, you have this round 1 minor region, South American team, Furia. They're good, but they're a South American team. This is for true intellectuals. NA and EU. Only the true Rocket League intellectuals, can compete for a title. And Furia said, up yours. We are a favorite. We have been slept on for too long. We have been ignored for too long. And now is our time. Your time was the spring major. This one's our time. And Furia took it to Moist. Like, I've never seen any team, maybe even Falcons is a good comparison, as far as teams that just take it to Moist. Not caring how mechanical they are, how good they are on offense, not trying to defend their offense. Just saying, you know what? A best defense is a good offense. We're going to outscore you. And the South American style of mechanics, speed, chaos, flip resets everywhere. Any ball can be flip reset at any time. Caused Moist some problems. And again, we said Moist did not look on peak. They didn't look on form entirely how we're used to seeing them. But Furia, 100% the cause of that. They're just the chaotic style that they play, the speed, the boost control. Moist was not ready for it. And Furia, man, although they lost this series, or they won the series, but they lost against BDS, like, again, barring any roster changes, they've got to be a favorite going into next year for World Champions. I mean, if this roster keeps getting better and the exposure for these minor regions, Team Falcons you can throw in the same bucket, the exposure to these faster, bigger, better teams is only going to help them get better. And how much better can a Furia or a Falcons, and even the club or a Team Secret that unfortunately did not qualify, but these minor region teams, how much is this exposure going to help them be even better next year? And it's truly something that's exciting as an esports and Rocket League esports fan. These minor regions developing into, hey, it's anyone's game. It's not, okay, this is a North American team, this is a European team, they're going to win. It's, I don't know who's going to win. Who's the better team? That's what it comes down to. It doesn't matter what region you're from. It is truly who has the better players, who is the better team that day. And we're getting to this more balanced state of Rocket League, which makes the matches incredible, like the one that we saw just on Sunday. And again, I think it was the greatest series ever played. It was just, had me on the edge of my toes, the edge of my seat the entire time. Just simply insane series. But this brings us to our last talking point. And this one's going to be a little bit longer. This is roster mania. And boy, oh boy, has roster mania begun. We'll start with, really quickly, the team of Semper Esports, according to Shift Rocket League here, is going to be free agents coming up this year. Chaussette, 45, Casio, and Exotic plan to stick together as of this moment heading into the RLCS season for 22-23. But Archie will not be representing Semper, and he's going to be looking for a team. Marvelman, your thoughts? Does Semper re-sign the squad? Do they run it back? Or do they try to make some organizational changes themselves?
You know, they're a sleeper team, like we mentioned, so I'm not sure how long they've been established, those three players together. Do you know how long they've been together?
This team's been together for a little bit of time.
It's not long, right? Like
I think dating back even to prior to RLCS 22 or 21-22, I think they were together in RLCS X as well.
Okay. So, you know, they have some team chemistry there, but you know, they killed in the Swiss bracket. They were something to look at. So I think personally that they should sign him back on, and I think they should work on just getting that chemistry stronger and just, you know, building. And I think this is like one of those points to where, yeah, you know, like my argument before, the fresh eyes, the new ideas, I don't really think that applies here. You know, the Semper is pretty solid and they know how they're doing, and I think if they progress together, they'll just get stronger together. And you know, if they go their separate ways, they go their separate ways. I'm excited to see what each player goes and does, but I really think that they should stay together. I really believe that they have a potential to be a really great team that a lot of other teams will fear, but that's only if they stay together. So, you know, again, it doesn't matter either way. I think they're all, you know, they're good players alone by themselves, but I would be, you know, very ecstatic to see them stay together and try to work on that team chemistry and just try to become some team that, you know, comes out of the shadows and comes to play.
Yeah, absolutely. The Semper squad, like the post says, they're planning to stay together. They should stay together. Semper should re-sign them. I don't anticipate any drama coming out of this other than Archie is LFT. But the squad showed some real promise and honestly did much better at this previous World Championship than we thought. I wasn't very high on any of them going into Worlds this previous year. But, you know, They shocked me, honestly. Like, I'm trying to think of how to put it into words, but they shocked me. I did not think they had what they had in them. They proved some good play earlier in the year. I believe it was fall regional, one of the fall regionals where they made a grand finals appearance, and the squad always had that potential in them, but it never, you know, you never looked at them as one of the favorites or one of the top, you know, competing squads. Definitely they had their moments of shine, but never on a level of, you know, BDSM moist. So it's tough to say, you know, don't make any changes because it didn't work. But then it begs the question, well, could it work? And so I think you definitely run it back, at least go through the fall regionals, see what happens. You know, if you have to make a roster change during the transfer window after the fall regional before winter regionals start up, then that's what you got to do. But I definitely say run it back. Semper should re-sign them. And this should be a non-drama point. But talking about drama, let's get ready for some drama. So, leading in with this, earlier today, the Peeps, who was a Rocket League team back in the season of RLCS X and before, they unfortunately left the scene prior to RLCS 21-22, but they were previously a squad made up of Gyro, Mist, and Reddles. And you're going to want to remember those last two names because we're about to go on an adventure here. Just earlier today, at about 3 p.m. Eastern, the Peeps tweeted out three little peeps, after you can see about over a year of inactivity. Just no news whatsoever. And then all of a sudden their Twitter is coming back to life. So everyone instantly, the only reaction to this is the Peeps are coming back on the scene. You know, another org rejoining the scene. Awesome news. But nothing really super newsworthy out of that, you know, other than who's their roster going to be. But, you know, no big news. You know, it's just another day at the office. Well, Mist also tweeting out at about 3 o'clock, previously of Optic, with the conclusion of Worlds, I am now an unrestricted free agent, and I will be looking for new opportunities. I'd like to thank our fans for sticking with us through every roster change and mixed result. Looking forward to next season. And of course, Mist, again, being on Optic this past year. I have heard reports that he is in talks with Optic to potentially re-sign, but as he said himself, he is open to any and all options. He's exploring his options. And that's interesting, because about 3 o'clock, he tweets out that he's a free agent, you know, and listening to offers, and the Peeps tweet out for the first time in over a year, oh, hey, you know, we're going to be back. They didn't say that, but, like, come on, what else could it mean? And Mist being one of the original members on the squad begs the question, is he one of the Peeps going back on the new Peeps? And this would be totally irrelevant if not for a report I'm going to show you in a sec. Slater Reddles saying, good luck, kid, with the cat emoji. And it's interesting that he is one of the top comments on that, because according to Shift RLE, and of course, guys, go give them a follow over on Twitter. Incredible up-to-date news reports. They are the Ian Rappaport, the Adrian Wojnarowski of Rocket League. They will give you all the updates up to the minute, and we discuss a lot of their reports here on the podcast. But Shift saying Space Station Gaming are expected to kick Reddles before the RLCS 22-23 season. The organization will be targeting Oxygen Esports young star LJ as his replacement. The article then goes on further to say Reddles joined the Space Station from Pittsburgh Knights in July of 2020 and helped the organization establish itself as one of the top teams in North America. And then he says that Reddles was informed of the team's decision during the World Championship while they were still in the tournament. So we'll talk about that in a minute. And it says it's unclear the motivation of making the change, but it is known that it was made by the players and not the organization. So whether that means it was Arsenal, Daniel, or the coach Chrome, it's still not entirely clear or known, but it was not an organization decision. It was a player-made decision. And again, that they are targeting LJ as his replacement, formerly of Oxygen Esports. So, Marvel Man, dropping a bomb on you, of course. Thoughts on this massive bomb on opening day, really, of Roster Mania?
It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're a person watching at home, you know, you're probably hearing all these names being thrown around, and, you know, you're like, how is this going on? And, you know, it's interesting to see, but, you know, I don't think that there's anything to be worried about. And I'm really excited to see about the Peeps, you know, maybe coming out of the shadows here. And I definitely think that Mist has an opportunity to, you know, get up on his own 2 feet. I don't want to say Optic Gaming was holding him back, but maybe just a little bit. You know, Mist is the soft.
Whoop. Sorry, cut you off there, Marvel Man. Continue.
Yeah, no problem. But anyways, yeah, so maybe just a little bit there. And it was a little interesting to see that, you know, maybe he's going a different route with a different team here. So I'm really interested to see what happens with him. You know, it's tough on SSG. Team of my favorite, but, you know, let's get some new eyes in there. Let's get some fresh blood. You know, if he wants to leave, let him leave. Let's get somebody new. You know, they didn't play too well in this bracket. I think they were a little bit slow, a little bit underwhelming, but, you know, let's do it this time. I think we can get it going on.
Yeah, so we actually have a viewer calling in here, Marvel Man. Cameron, or CJ, your thoughts on this whole Reddles development drama. What are your thoughts here?
As an SSG fan, I don't really want to see Reynolds go, considering To me, he's more of a leader of SSG. Um, from what I've seen, he's almost like a coach, bringing Daniel in and helping him get settled into RLCS. So for me, it's almost dumb to kick Reynolds off the team.
Yeah, absolutely. That was my first thought too, as well.
Yeah.
You know, Reddle's always seeming like, you know, this leader on the team, this leader helping Daniel, as you said, and you know he's the one being interviewed. He is the de facto, you know, leader of this team. So it's really shocking to me. So it really begs the question. I don't think it would have been Arsenal or Daniel, especially, wanting to kick him. So it brings up the question. We don't want to insinuate, but is it Coach Chrome? And I've heard rumors that Reddles frequently would not listen to Coach Chrome's advice or strategies. But interested to hear your thoughts on that, CJ.
I don't really know if it was Chrome or not. I don't think it was Chrome, to be honest with you. It could be, but from what it seemed like, Chrome and Reddles from the outside, from just watching RLCS, seemed like they had a pretty good relationship. But I don't know what that is like when the camera's on.
Yeah, absolutely. It truly a shocking situation, to be totally honest with you guys, and I'm interested to see where this goes. Space Station targeting LJ. I don't want to say it seems like a downgrade, but it
That's what I was thinking.
it's
Didn't we reverse sweep Oxygen?
it's
Pretty
tough.
sure we reverse sweep them.
Yeah, it's tough to remember this late in the year, but
Yeah,
Oxygen definitely a one of the lesser talented teams. So I could see LJ wanting out, as very similar to Daniel, one of the young phenoms on the scene. So, you know, I could see the potential upside of bringing in an LJ, but man, a proven commodity like Reddles, getting rid of him is truly surprising. And before we let you go here, CJ, curious, any other thoughts on anything else you want to talk about here tonight?
Real quick, the V1 versus SSG game in the World Championships. That was a major upset, in my opinion. I thought V1 was going to lose that and not qualify. I thought SSG had that in the bag. He went back to the wild card, round 2, high match. SSG beat V1 4-2, and then for whatever reason, I think SSG must have had an off day or something, and they didn't do so well in the lower semifinals, and we got beat 4-2. And
yeah, that was I know you, Marvel Man. You were picking Space Station against V1, so maybe you can weigh in more on this. What were your thoughts on that matchup? Was it a major upset in your eyes?
You know, I would say yeah, but also, you know, you kind of have to expect version 1 being a solid team. Version 1 has always been a solid team, and they lost against them in the Swiss bracket. So, you know, going into the same matchup again, you can kind of predict that maybe version 1 will take it again. But, you know, you bringing up that CJ is definitely a great what's the word I'm looking for? It's a great segue into, you know, maybe this is the game that, you know, led to the dispute within SSG here. You know, that like version 1, they played up against them in the beginning, they lost, and then they played them again and they lost, and maybe that was the final draw. Maybe that's why some roster changes were being made. Maybe that's why there were some talks mid-world championships. So that's definitely a thought to think about.
And it's crazy because we went from a very confident SSG from the SSG versus N point game where we swept them into us losing against version 1. So
yeah,
maybe something happened in between the game, in between the days. So who knows?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. I feel for them. I do. I really do. They're a solid team, so hopefully they can bounce back this next upcoming series here.
Absolutely. Is it official that Reynolds is leaving?
Yeah, according to Shift, they are expected to kick Reynolds, so it's not confirmed yet, but it's all but confirmed. Once something like this comes out, you know, it's really hard to backtrack. And even Reynolds in his own stream earlier today was actually free playing, and then he went over to the team chat portion of the lower right when he was just free playing and said, "Please donate money, I'm homeless," and then quickly deleted it, and everyone had a good laugh in the chat. So it seems all but confirmed, and really weird that they told him during the World Championships that we're going to be moving on from you, because that is not the way to do that. You can't help but think, you know, did that have some impact on the play of the team during the championship? So just a scuffed situation as a whole. But CJ, thank you so much for calling in tonight, and hope to catch you again on the next broadcast here.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a fantastic night.
You too, buddy.
Thanks.
All right, bye.
That was, of course, CJ calling in. And if you would like to call in as well, please make sure you do just that. Feel free to call in anytime you want. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to get Marvel Man back on the line here and reestablish our video connection here. So that way you guys can get him back on the broadcast. There he is. Again, if you want to call into the show any night, the Discord info is in the description, as well as we'll drop it in the chat. Come share your thoughts. Join the Discord server. Drop your lines. If maybe you don't feel comfortable calling in, put a text chat on the Discord. Hey, Vexum, can we talk about this? Can we talk about that? You have some news you want to break? Drop it on in there. We'll talk about it. So, absolutely huge ups. CJ, thank you for calling in. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Man, any closing thoughts on anything we discussed here tonight? The Reynolds drama, telling him during the tournament, the Peeps, Semper, the World Championship as a whole. Any closing thoughts?
You know, with COVID and everything that's been happening, I definitely think for the World Series to be coming back was definitely just something really great to see by all RL fans. You know, it delivered in every single way possible. The Swiss bracket was amazing. What is it called before playoffs? I am totally losing that word.
The group stage?
Group stage, there it is. The group stage was exciting. The playoffs were exciting. All of it was all great. And so, yeah, you know, it delivered, and I'm so happy that Psyonix was able to hold something like this, and just that they did a really well job, like you just explained before. Everything was just outstanding, and I'm excited to see just, you know, how all these teams bounce back, and, you know, to do with the moving over to the roster changes. You know, it is sad to see, you know, him possibly leaving SSG, but, you know, I think it's not going to be the end of the world. I think things will be okay. You know, there's still some solid players on there, and, you know, if they're bringing in somebody new, let them bring them. You know, maybe that's just the change SSG needs, and, you know, that's just the change all these other teams need. Maybe they just need an extra little hand coming in. So I'm really excited just to see how every little thing maneuvers and gets better. And yeah, I think, you know, should keep up with Rocket League and definitely check it out, because some things are going to change. Oh, also excited for Peeps. I think that might be a new favorite. I'm liking that. Sounds good.
Absolutely. Well, you guys know where to keep it tuned to for all the news during this roster mania madness coming over the next coming weeks. We'll also have some scrim results coming as these teams start to test tryouts and start to have scrims to get ready for RLCS 22-23, which should be coming in October if they started around the same time, which I would anticipate at this point that they're going to stick to the same format. They really knocked it out of the park. I think it's the best format amongst any esport. And again, I'm totally biased, but I like the year-long circuit. It makes it feel more like an NBA, an NHL, and NFL type schedule. And the way it finishes with the World Championships in summertime in August really is a nice cap to it. People can travel, people can go see. So I think the circuit should stay about the same, which means we should have week 1 starting regionals about in October, and we should have some news coming about the start of next season come mid-September. So definitely you'll want to stay tuned to the podcast, but we'll be going live at least once a week. We'll try to get a more formal schedule down once we settle into school schedules here. But Marvel Man, what a world championship. What results. This was crazy. I'm so thrilled to see what happens with Roster Mania coming up here. And I'm so thrilled that you guys have come on this journey with us through the Bar Down podcast. This is already our 11th episode. Quite a lot to talk about in Rocket League. It's hard to believe that we're already on 11. And it seems like we're in no time. We have already gotten so hooked on this podcast, and it's because of you guys listening, watching, commenting on the YouTubes, or during the live chat when we do the show live, calling in as CJ just did, sharing his thoughts, people sharing their thoughts on Discord. So thank you guys all from the bottom of our hearts. And until next time, this is Vex and Marvel Man in the Bar Down podcast, signing out. See you guys later.